Hey everybody, it's CJ and welcome to another episode of Objection Crime Chatter. I always want to say Celebrity Court Chatter because that's my other show, but it's Objection Crime Chatter, and today we are going to go over a case that is up and coming and one that I followed that's got so many twists and turns. It's the Morphew Mother's Day mystery. Was he the Chipmunk Slayer, or is he responsible for his wife's death? So we're going to go over everything today. Hey, DFJ, thanks for stopping by. Um, if you want to join, I sent you the link. You can. Or you could just, hang out in the chat. It's up to you. So yeah, we're gonna go over. So by the time that we get, done going through the case, I'm gonna ask the chat whether, we think that he indeed had something to do with the unaliving of his wife, or if he was really just out hunting chipmunks, which is what he told the Colorado Bureau of Investigations, and the story that he sticks by to this day. They had two daughters, and we're going to get into how they were supportive of their father throughout this. We're going to go into how this is his second arrest. He was able to wiggle out of charges because of prosecutorial errors. The prosecution basically messed up. Sorry, I can't say that word. Oh, thank you, Kenny. She says, listening for just a few. She's heading to a concert. Oh, I appreciate it. Enjoy the concert. Hey, Amy, Victoria, appreciate y'all. We're getting into a little bit of true crime. Taking a break from the lively situation. I know a lot went on today. And if you guys tune into the show Thursday morning, we're going to be doing a recap of all the lively stuff. Tomorrow, we're doing Kanye. We might talk a little bit about Blake, but we're for sure going to. It says hunting chipmunks is so sad as is murder. Yeah, well, yeah, especially you. You're an animal lover. If y'all don't follow DFJ on TikTok, it's Law Nerds and Paw Nerds. She's our resident animal lover. So um, yeah, Kenny says she's here for it. Well, we're gonna get right into it since Kenny's going to a concert. Let me try and get through as much as I can. This guy's killing chipmunks. Yes, so that was his excuse, and he's saying that he did not unalive his wife. And what the evidence that they have is that he was out unaliving chipmunks. So we're gonna go ahead and get into it. Let me go ahead and get our first slide up. Hold on one second. Let me go ahead and get that up. Hold on. Is that even legal in Colorado? I love DFJ because she always has the questions. I do not know that one. I'm gonna have to Google it and see if it is legal. I'm sure it is. If he was doing it and they didn't arrest him for it. I'm not quite sure, but that's a really good question, DFJ. You always come with the good questions. Maybe you can look up chipmunk hunting in Colorado and see, and you can answer it in the chat. No, yes, please. I love your questions. I do. I love, 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 love them. If you guys don't know, she had so many questions on the Demore Hadley case that we went over the other night, and she made a whole little like a whole little video on all the questions, which is so funny. I've showed it to a couple of my friends and they absolutely loved it. It was so cool. And yeah, it also keeps me on my toes. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into I'm still trying to figure out how to get this slide up because for some reason I keep having trouble trying to get that first slide up. What I need to do is practice. Oh, Amy Shepard says, per AI Google, no, it's not legal. Oh, okay. DFJ says, watching it back, it was so funny. Yeah, it was. Thank you, Amy. It's illegal, it's apparently. Christina, you no worries. You're fine. Sorry she's late. Shout out to my mod, Christina. She's awesome for coming on for the True Crime Night channel. And again, we're going to be doing True Crime every night, 8 Eastern. So I hope you guys stop by. At the end of the show, we'll go ahead and put a list of the next couple days worth of shows. I got a little content calendar going. So I think that I finally figured out the share screen. So here we go. Hope y'all are ready. We're trying to get Kenny to the concert, so let's get through the story. So this is Suzanne Morphew, you guys. So this is rest in peace. This is who was unalived and who the story is about. So we're going to go ahead and get started. When Suzanne Morphew, a Colorado mother of two, vanished on Mother's Day 2020, police initially thought that maybe she was taken while riding her mountain bike. They also considered her husband. And then bizarre clues emerged: a chipmunk alibi, a tranquilizer gun, a spy pen, and an affair. A 25-year marriage. So here, enter the chat, is Barry Morphew, her husband of 25 years. So there they are, happily married. Suzanne and Barry Morphew grew up in the same hometown of Alexandria, Indiana, and met in high school. Suzanne was popular and well-liked, and Barry was a star baseball player who was drafted by the Toronto Blue Jays. The couple, who began dating after Barry graduated high school, married in 1994. Barry started a landscaping business, and Suzanne was a school teacher before leaving the job to raise their two daughters, Mallory and Macy. Suzanne and her daughters. So here is Suzanne with Mallory and Macy. According to friends, the Morphews moved from Indiana to a home just outside of Salida, Colorado, to be closer to their older daughter, Mallory, pictured on the right. This is Mallory here, who was attending college nearby. But there was also rumors that the move was an attempt at a fresh start for Susan and Barry's troubled marriage. Missing on Mother's Day. So this is the image. If you guys don't know my background, I started on websleuths.com, which is a sleuthing community for people to sleuth out missing people and stuff like that. And I spent years, about maybe 4 or 5 years, helping people, families of missing people, and especially missing women. And so I was very knee deep into the Suzanne Morphew case when she went missing. This was the picture that was used in the flyer. There was so much sleuthing going on. Initially, we thought she had gone on a bike ride and disappeared. And so we suspected foul play. And so there was a lot of, sleuthing and, flyer work that was going out, getting the information out if anybody had seen her. And it was a while before we realized what was unfolding. So this picture is very familiar to me because let me go check the chat real quick while we're here. Yeah, she was a pretty lady, Victoria. Hey, Laura, thanks for stopping by. Laura says she didn't hear the alert. That's okay. Okay, so everyone's just entering the chat. Okay, so let's continue on with the story. I'm sorry I went on a tangent there, but it just reminded me of, the web sleuth days, and this picture is just one that I'm really familiar with. And it's kind of why I came back to the true crime stuff, even though the celebrity stuff, celebrity legal cases, was supposed to, kind of steer me away from it. But there was still 4 or 5 cases that were pending that I wanted to follow all the way through, that trials are coming up on. So this is one of the ones that, I spent a lot of time on. It says early in the morning on May 10th, 2020. So yeah, like I said, 5 years ago, Barry left his home just outside of Salida, Colorado, to drive to a job site 150 miles away in Broomfield, Colorado. The couple's daughters, who were away on a camping trip and making their way home, text their mother, wishing her a happy Mother's Day, but she does not respond. And so that's why this was known as the Mother's Day mystery. Because it happened on Mother's Day. Mallory informs her father that they're unable to reach Suzanne. Barry eventually speaks to one of the neighbors and asks them to check on Suzanne and to see if her mountain bike is at the house. When they find no sign of her or her bike, Barry asks them to call the police. Instead of heading home immediately, though, Barry drops off a shovel and some other tools for his coworkers at a hotel where he had booked rooms for them and himself. He then begins driving home a few minutes past 6. So it's already a little bit sus here with, thank you, Christina. That's so cool that I started that way. Yeah. Christina's at the beach at the beach is I was like, Christina, you at the beach listening to us? At the beach is, someone who's here. Thank you so much for your support at the beach. We're in the Suzanne Morphew case. Says there is never a good day to murder someone, but Mother's Day, did he want this to get attention? And yeah, it's pretty crazy. There is suspicion that it had happened the day before. So the timeline is it could have been the day before or Mother's Day, because her phone stopped pinging or having any kind of uh, basically her phone went. There was nothing on her phone from the day before, and so we'll get into that. But yeah, it was definitely Mother's Day, when it's like your kids are going to be calling. Like, what's the excuse? Which is really weird, but um, I don't think he expected it. I think that it was due to him finding out that she was having an affair, which we'll get into. So it says investigators wonder about the stage scene. So here is the body cam footage of this bike that was found a little ways away from her home in some brush. So it says the photo was taken from police body cam footage showing Suzanne Morphew's mountain bike after being discovered by sheriff deputies on the side of a cliff off a road near the family home. No clothing, blood, or evidence of a struggle were found near the bike, and her helmet was discovered about a mile away off the side of Highway 50. Her sunglasses and hydration backpack were found inside her car, leading investigators to surmise that the scene may have been staged and that Susan never went for a bike ride. So here's the bike, People's Exhibit. There it is. Says Suzanne Morphew's bike after investigators removed it from the cliff. Susan was relatively new at mountain biking, and a few days after finding her bike, investigators recovered her helmet a couple miles away. So this is where I entered the chat, an extensive search effort. I was in the web sleuth community and the Facebook groups, which basically we were responsible for going into different missing persons group and posting the flyer and communicating with people to get the word out there. A scuba diver searches a local waterway as news of Susan Morphew's disappearance shook the community and eventually the entire nation. So this was, it was a pretty big case. Not as big as like Gabby Petito, but it was pretty big. Local and state authorities, along with the FBI, CBI, and civilian volunteers, conducted a large search effort. To this day, Suzanne's body has not been found. This is an older article, so her body has been found since then, but this was the best summary of the case that I could find. So um, we'll get into her body being found. Spy pen leads to shocking discovery. So this pen was in the car. It is a spy pen, which is so crazy because she got it she thought her husband was cheating. She thought Barry was cheating. So she got it and left it in the car. It says 10 days after Susan Morphew was reported missing, investigators find this spy pen in a walk-in closet in the Morphew's master bedroom. They learn that Suzanne got the pen, which is voice activated and records conversations, hoping to catch her husband Barry in an affair. But instead, she inadvertently recorded herself with her secret lover. It took 6 months for investigators to identify the man. It turned out he had a wife and 6 children in Michigan where he lived. He never came forward on his own after Suzanne vanished and took steps to hide their affair. But once agents came knocking, he did cooperate and provide access to his DNA, phone records, and passwords for deleted accounts. Investigators were then able to verify his alibi, and he was clear. So, yes. Oh my God, a spy pen. I know. The plot twist in this is crazy. So she gets the spy pen to catch him up in an affair, but it records her in the car, I guess calling her, the guy she was having an affair with, while she was driving. So she ends up calling him. But it also did record Barry Morphew listening to true crime podcasts. So he would listen to true crime podcasts on his drives to work. And one of them was about a woman who had gotten missing during a mountain bike ride. And so that was another piece of evidence that she said, that's messy. I know, but it's what cracked the case, because then they started to dig a little bit deeper with the spy pen. So it says love affair provides clues. So this was the last picture of her that she took. It was her by the pool in a bikini, kind of like laying on her stomach. And that's her towel right there. The towel was never found. On May 9th, the day before Mother's Day, so this is why I was telling, DFJ was saying, like, why do it on Mother's Day? That we believe it happened on May 9th. It shows that Susan Morphew and her lover messaged each other 59 times, leading up to the moment investigators believe Barry unalived his wife. At one point, Suzanne messaged her lover this selfie, which investigators dubbed her last proof of life. Barry, who was out running errands, sent Suzanne a text at 2:26 p.m. telling her he was on his way home. With no response from Suzanne, Barry texts her again, "Did you leave?" And again, he is met with silence. Investigators believe Barry returned home soon after, unalived her, and cleaned up the crime scene. But if Barry knew nothing about Suzanne's affair, what motive would he have to unalive her? One clue may be a deleted text that investigators found on Barry's phone sent by Suzanne the day before, where she said, "I'm done. I could care less what you're up to and what you've been up to for years. We just need to figure this out civilly." And he, in all the interviews with the CBI, Colorado Bureau of Investigations, he still says that he was never cheating on her. So I don't know if she just suspected he was cheating, so then she was doing it too. And I don't condone, like, just because she was cheating. How much memory did the pen have? I don't know, but it was several conversations that they were able to extract from it. Um, yeah. So it seems like she just thought he was cheating. Yeah, seriously. It seems like she just thought he was cheating, but it was actually that she was cheating as well. So it was just a little bit messy. And what they think happened is that she was lounging out by the pool, like kind of texting him and either ignoring Barry's texts or didn't get them for whatever reason. And then he showed up and maybe caught her or grabbed her phone and saw the text or whatever. Um but yeah, so let's continue. So it says signs of a struggle. This photo shows a dark vertical crack along the doorframe of the couple's master bedroom. Investigators showed Barry Morphew a photo of the damaged doorframe, explaining the prior owner said it wasn't there when they sold the house to the Morphews. Barry was asked if this was the result of an argument or being locked out, and he said, "I have no idea." Investigators believe Barry may have damaged the door as he tried to get to Suzanne after shooting her with the tranquilizer gun. So this is where the chipmunks come in. Cell phone records lead to the chipmunk alibi. And so, if any of you guys, any of my followers are into forensics, let me know in the chat if you're into true crime forensics, because I'm really, really intrigued by forensics. And that's why I, selfishly kind of wanted the Koberger trial to, go all the way through, because I was intrigued on how they used the genealogy DNA. And I was intrigued how they also used, DFJ says, "I love forensics." My forensics crew, where you at? Um, I love the fact that how they caught Koberger too was with calculating the cell phone towers. All that stuff is so interesting to me. There's a case that we're going to cover, Larry Milletti, who also allegedly unalived his wife, and they also used like GPS tracking with his. In this one, they used we'll get into this picture here with the chipmunk chasing, but they also used Victoria says she also loves forensics, so we got a lot. Whose house got robbed? Oh, your friend. Okay. His house got robbed and he processed his whole house, so he knew how to process it, so he processed his own house. That's so funny. And that's what Koberger, they were saying that he knew about forensics. So it was really weird that he left the sheath behind, because he was basically trained in criminology and forensics and stuff. But a lot of people say that he was like, uh, uh, he had been taught like outdated forensics type of stuff, where he didn't realize like touch DNA that wasn't taught to him, because maybe that's something that's not in the books that they teach or whatever in college. So a lot of people thought that maybe that's why. But yeah, here with this case, they even got into like how many times he opened his car door the night before Mother's Day. He was opening and shutting his car door and stuff like that, which I thought like is super intriguing. But so here we're gonna get into the data of the cell phone. So if you see these little red lines here, this is what it showed that he was traveling, zigzagging. So it's from the backyard and then it goes into the house. Like he chased her into the house. That's my theory, that he may have chased her into the house. I don't know when he shot her with the tranquilizer dart, but my theory is that she went into the bedroom, tried to close the door, and then, he knocked the door in and um, and got to her. But it says cell phone records appear to show Barry Morphew's phone pinging all around the house on May 9th. When asked about this unusual phone activity, Barry told investigators that he was running around the property shooting chipmunks, which Barry says were a constant nuisance. However, investigators believe this unusual phone activity could be Barry chasing Suzanne around the house after shooting her with the tranquilizer gun. The satellite image of the Morphew home shows some of the ping locations from Barry's cell phone. And in his first trial, because we're going to get into how he first got arrested, in his first trial or pre-trial hearing to see if there would be a trial, um, an expert went up there, saying like this, and that. But then there was a counter expert who was like, this is all baloney. The forensics of cell phone pinging is not accurate, and try to debunk it. But and then here is the digital vehicle forensics, which is what I was talking about, reveals suspicious activities. Authorities say that he told them he went to bed at 8 p.m. on May 9th, but his truck's computer, seen here in this evidence photo, was put in reverse and backed up toward the house around 9:30 p.m. So they could tell that it was put in reverse, and how long, like everything. It's so crazy, the forensics they had on it. A pivotal piece of evidence, and here it is, the tranquilizer cap. Investigators discovered this clear plastic needle cap in the Morphew's family dryer. Prosecutors contend it's an important piece of evidence. They believe that when Barry Morphew arrived home the afternoon of May 9th, he went into the garage, took this cap off a syringe used to load a tranquilizer dart, injected the dart with the chemical, and shot Suzanne. Though they failed to find a working tranquilizer gun or tranquilizer chemicals in the couple's home. So he got rid of the gun, but he didn't get rid of this, because in the dryer, I believe there was his shorts were in the dryer, and then this was like in the dryer, so I maybe it was like in the pocket of his shorts. And so it just goes to show how, like, a little thing, just like Koberger accidentally left the sheath, how it can lead to and so here are some text messages between him and Suzanne. And she's basically saying, it says, a slew of text messages between Suzanne and a close friend. Okay. In the months and days leading up to her disappearance, reveal that the Morphew's marriage remained rocky. These are just a few of the texts showing Suzanne's anguish and concern about her husband. In one text, she writes, I feel no peace when he's here, and I would not feel safe alone with him. Because I think towards the end, he also had like these, what are those like animal cameras called? Like the hunting cameras? He had some of those like pointed at the house because he was kind of like surveilling her and her friend too. So I don't know. I think it was just like insecurity. They both suspected each other of cheating, and um, so yeah. So it says an avid hunter and outdoorsman. This photo shows some deer heads displayed inside the. So there's the deer inside the Morphew home. When investigators told Barry Morphew that a tranquilizer dart had been fired in or around the house, he could not explain it. He responded, the first thing I thought of when I came here and saw deer in my yard with big horns, I'm like, I'm getting them horns. And I'll tell you what I did. I shoot them. They go to sleep and I cut their horns off. It's totally illegal, but you're going to find trank darts around my property because I always do that. So, and he did say that he at one point made a left turn that morning when he went to work, because that morning of Mother's Day, he leaves for work. And he's like, oh, I made a left turn because I saw a deer and I wanted its horns. But really, he was getting rid of evidence slowly. So here it comes, multiple trash runs. On May 10th, Suzanne Morphew is reported missing. Let me hide this one. Trail cams. Thank you. Everyone's like, trail cams. Yeah, that's what he had set up. So it says on May 10th, the day Suzanne Morphew is reported missing, investigators discovered Barry Morphew threw out trash at multiple locations around Broomfield, Colorado. While in town for work, this photo taken from a hotel surveillance footage shows Barry throwing out trash in a dumpster. So there's Barry circled in red. Barry told investigators that he often just dropped trash in accessible bins just to avoid paying to have it disposed of at a landfill. Investigators, however, believe Barry was disposing of evidence. He changed his clothes, and then they never found that clothes. They believe it was in the trash bags of that hotel. So he basically leaves that morning, goes to a hotel he booked in Broomfield, and he changes clothes. You see him going into the hotel room, and he's wearing one set of clothes, and then when he comes back out, he's wearing a different set of clothes, and then they never find the original set of clothes. And then he let the people, because basically he worked for a construction company, and he let his coworkers use that hotel room because he's like, "Oh, I gotta go. Suzanne's not answering her phone, but you know, you may have to do the job yourself. You could stay in this hotel room." And his coworker said it smelled like bleach. So I don't know if he was getting, using the bleach to get rid of evidence. It says scratch marks on his arms. There was theory that there was a physical altercation leading up to her unaliving because there was apparent scratch marks on his arm. And so this was 3 days after she went missing. Investigators photographed that. So he gets arrested and jailed based on that circumstantial evidence. So this is his first mugshot right here. This is Barry Morphew. It says the booking photo was taken after his arrest nearly a year after Suzanne's disappearance. Despite not having found the body, he was charged with first-degree murder and tampering with physical evidence and other charges. In the arrest affidavit, it says it has become clear that Barry could not control Suzanne's insistence on leaving him, and he resorted to something he has done his entire life: hunt and control Suzanne like he had hunted and controlled animals. So this is probably a soft spot for DFJ because she's like, look, those who hurt animals, just saying. Yeah, so he was, uh, you know, self-proclaimed Chipmunk Slayer, because that was his excuse, was like, "Oh no, I didn't do anything to hurt her." And me and DFJ were talking about Koberger and stuff, and Buddy the dog, and how animals are usually a gateway before somebody, does. And I'm not saying that for everybody who's like out hunting or anything like that, but um, for people who may not be all the way there, that's one of the ways that they use to get that out of their system. So here's where the girls during the first trial, this is Mallory and I forget the other girl's name, but his daughters stood by him. They believed that their dad was innocent. It says Barry Morphew pleaded not guilty to all charges, and on September 20th, he was released from jail on bond with his daughters by his side. They steadfastly support their father, attending most of his court hearings like this one on December of 2021. A new twist in mystery DNA. Investigators discovered mysterious male DNA in the Range Rover belonging to Suzanne Morphew. In October 2020, DNA tested revealed at least a partial match to an unnamed man connected to 3 unsolved SA cases in Tempe, Phoenix, and Chicago. Barry Morphew's legal team says it intends to file a civil lawsuit claiming prosecutors withheld more specific exculpatory DNA evidence until after Barry's preliminary hearing in August of 2021. This decided the case against Barry is strong enough to go to trial. So we're about to get into how that comes into play, the exculpatory evidence. Pretrial motions. In a series of pretrial motions, Barry Morphew's defense team pressed judges to impose severe sanctions on the prosecution for failing to turn over that potential exculpatory evidence. Judge Lama did, imposing damaging sanctions, including barring 11 of their 16 endorsed expert witness, experts in DNA, vehicle data, and a cell phone data analyst. So yeah, they did. They barred that person that was the cell phone data analyst for the pinging as punishment for violating the discovery rules. In all, the court excluded 14 of the prosecution's expert witnesses. The judge found that the DA Stanley, who no longer has a job, I believe, in Colorado, that DA Stanley was really controversial. And her team repeatedly missed deadlines and failed to turn over important information, and wrote, "It's clear to this court there's a pattern of discovery violations in this case that is attributed to the people. Their actions amount to negligent and reckless disregard." In earlier filings, prosecutors said that the court did not find willful misconduct associated with any discovery violations, noting ultimately the sanctions imposed greatly damaged the people's case. So they were like, we didn't do anything. But then this is when he walks out free, charges dismissed. On April 19th, 2022, just 9 days before he was set to stand trial, Judge Ramsey Lama granted the DA's motion to dismiss the charges against him without prejudice, meaning the prosecution can refile charges in the future. He walked out of the Fremont County Courthouse a free man after all charges against him were dismissed. At the time, they said it was because they didn't have the body, and they said they wanted to retry him after the snow had melted. so that they could find Suzanne's body and it not be a circumstantial case. But in reality, they had botched it so bad at that point that, luckily they were able to, dismiss it before things got any worse, and they lost. So here is where Susan Morphew's remains were found. So just recently in 2023, more than 3 years after she was reported missing, investigators discovered her skeletal remains, and it wasn't in the snow where they thought she was at. It says in an unrelated search is where they found it. It was an area known as the Boneyard near the town of Moffat, which was less than an hour south of the Morphew's home. And here he is. Here's his new mugshot, and this was his most recent arrest. Barry Morphew charged with murder a second time. On June 20th, 2025, Barry Morphew was rearrested near Phoenix, Arizona, and charged with first-degree murder in the death of his wife. Detectives with the Arizona Department of Public Safety reportedly apprehended him without incident during a traffic stop after spotting a black Ford pickup registered in his last name. He had been living in Arizona and is being held on $3 million cash. He continues to maintain his innocence. So that's pretty much where we're at right now. So let's go check out the chat real quick. I'm going to pull up this tab while we look up at the chat. Hey, just snooping. People are like, wow, are you for real? Yeah, this case just gets crazier and crazier. Let's see. Animals, children, the disabled, and very elderly are who, in my mind, are innocent and are not capable of defending themselves. I'm the nicest person until you mess with them or my family. Yeah. Imagine thinking that saying randomly killing squirrels is your alibi for unaliving. Yeah. Yep. And so, I mean, it's just crazy that he was like, I was just chasing chipmunks around the house. And it's like, so, that's what you were doing. And then your wife comes up missing. It was like the alibi was just, for a while, I was just like, it's so unreal. Like, and then where were the chipmunk bodies and stuff? Like, did you shoot any of them? Did you get them? Like, oh, good. I'm glad they got him. Yeah. No, that's okay. You got a little spicy. No, I agree with you that, I really can't cover cases with kids. I used to do missing women and kids. I used to do that. And the kids just got way too much because it would always be a missing kid. And then it would be either the parent had unalived the kid or, somebody else. I mean, the Michael Vaughn thing, I think that was the last kid case. He was out of Idaho. It was right before the Idaho 4 Brian Koberger case broke. I did a lot of fundraising for Michael Vaughn to get him to be found, and he still to this day has not been found. So I don't know. For me, it's kids as well, and women. I feel like it's really bad with them. So I had to kind of like steer away from that. And the only reason I'm going back to these cases is because I worked really hard on them, and I'm still curious as to like how it's going to end. Like, I even told friends where they were like, I thought you like stopped doing true crime. And I was like, no, I kind of got back into it because there's these couple cases like Koberger was one, Larry Milletti, Shayna Gardner, some of these cases that we're going to go over, were cases that I followed. Hey, Amy, thanks everyone for stopping by tonight. So let's continue on. What was Barry doing while he was free? So it says, why, hello there, little lady. My name is Barry Lee Morphew. Oh, I mean, Lee Moore. You come here often? Hashtag Barry Morphew, aka hashtag Lee Moore, will have to take a break from giving the ladies fake names in Phoenix. So he was living under another identity, and this is him at a bar flirting it up with women. Right after Suzanne went missing, he ended up getting a girlfriend who is going to be testifying at this trial. She's on the witness list. But yeah, he got a girlfriend right away and dated her for a while. Then he moves to Arizona, and then he's just, trying to live his best life, I guess. And then it shows obviously the mugshot. That's when he got arrested. And then here is when he got picked up. It says, excuse me, aka Lee Moore, which was his alias that he was going by. It's a $3 million cash only bail. No leaving the state of Colorado, GPS unit, surrender of passport, compliance with mandatory, I don't know, what is this? Mandatory something order. But so this is when he got picked up in Arizona. And then we have the grand jury indictment, which we're not going to go all the way over because the other part took a lot of the story. But so here are the counts. Count 1, unaliving in the first degree after deliberation. And here it says, that they reported to the Salida, Colorado home as a missing person report. The house was locked and Suzanne Morphew was not at home. Her vehicle was in the garage. There were no signs of forced entry, and the bike was missing. So he was interviewed right away, and he told police that he set his alarm and he woke up at 4:30 a.m. on May 10th. He told police that he left at 5 a.m. on May 10th for a pre-planned work trip. According to Barry Morphew, she was still asleep. And this is where his story went off because he kept telling her, like, in several different interviews, and if you followed it, they have all the interviews on body cam too, um, where he refers to the way she was sleeping like a bunch of different ways each time he's asked. He was like, oh, she had the blanket over her. Oh, no, I didn't know what she was wearing because she was under the blanket. Or, oh, she slept with no clothes on all the time, so she wasn't wearing any clothes. So that's where you start. If you guys ever get a chance, or if you want to deep dive into this case, and Google the Barry Morphew body cam videos, all those interviews are so interesting because you get to like really see how when someone's like literally caught up in lies, how they're trying to like wiggle out of them. And even with the chipmunk stuff, with he saw the deer with the horns, there's so many things where it's inconsistencies and you can tell he's lying, um, allegedly. Um, so it says that upon arriving that morning, he checked into a hotel before leaving for the job site, and he told police that he received a call around 5 from his neighbors who couldn't get a hold of Suzanne. So her daughters called the neighbor because her daughters were trying to call her for Mother's Day. And so then it talks a little bit about the coworkers who are also going to be witnesses in this case. One is a female and the other one's a male. There was talk about how he was maybe possibly having an affair with the female, but nothing ever came of that. And then there was talks about how the guy was like a druggie or something, and so he shouldn't be believed, but nothing ever came of those like rumors. It says in early interviews, he told law enforcement that his marriage was the best, that they had just had a wonderful weekend together. And that's another thing that got him caught up, which is that he asked, what did you guys have for dinner last night? And he's like, steak. But this is like the crazy part about detectives and stuff. It's like when they looked in the kitchen, there was only one plate and one fork in the like, dishwasher, like in the drying rack. And then he had to backtrack and be like, oh, well, we shared a plate. So I think it's really like crazy how, detectives and stuff, even something as small as that can catch you up. Let me check the chat real quick. Yeah. Body cam videos are crazy. Oh, Amy says, I live in Colorado. So do you follow this case? Probably. Chris Watts, a lot of crazy stuff. It's like Florida and Colorado. We've had a lot of crazy cases come out of there. And yeah, Christina says she can't do kids either. Wait, so was his DNA the one that associated with the SA in Arizona? No, it was another male DNA, a random male DNA that they still have not accounted for why that was in there, unless she was having an affair with another man that we don't know of. But I know that's going to come up in the trial as a suspect. He's still probably going to try and use that in his defense. But the mic drop is at the end of this indictment. We're getting to it here. Let me get through it. It says that the disappearance coincided with her daughter, the only other occupant, leaving on a pre-planned road trip out of state. So let me just get through it because it's a lot of pages, and what I'll do is I'll link it down in the description for those who want to do a deep dive and read the whole indictment. So it says, similarly, further analysis of the information from Barry Morphew's infotainment. That's what it was, infotainment system. So for those forensic nerds, it was the infotainment system telematics. That's what they call it. So it showed an irregular gap in recorded activities, specifically from 3:49 a.m. to approximately 8:10 a.m. Seemed like he was trying to get rid of the evidence. An indication of no truck activity is inconsistent with other facts developed from Barry Morphew's phone surveillance footage and his statement about his activities that day. So he basically made a bunch of statements and then it didn't coincide with the stuff from the truck. So then it says it goes into phone records. So I'm just gonna go. Okay, so here's where this is where the mic drop is. Okay, this is where they find her. A board-certified forensic anthropologist and a botanist and an entomologist. So these are all people who work with bones, plants, and I don't know what the entomologist is. They all analyzed the remains, and several observations were noted. This is when her body gets found. There's a distinct lack of bug activity, which was inconsistent with the remains having decomposed at that location. The clothing items lacked evidence of decomposition, which was inconsistent with Suzanne Morphew wearing the bike clothes at the time her body was decomposed. Additionally, there was a lack of animal predation on the bones. So there's a theory that she was moved, and we'll get into, I have that slide of her body being moved. So they conduct an autopsy, and they find a chemical mixture known as BAM, butyrophenol azaparone and metamidine. BAM. The chief toxicologist tested her bone marrow for the presence of BAM. All three of the individual chemicals that compromise BAM were present. And so it says Suzanne Morphew's body had begun to metabolize the drug before she died. The coroner's office determined cause of death and manner of death as followed: homicide by unspecified means in the setting of butyrophenol, basically the BAM intoxication. So they testified about the toxicology testing that was done, and how they, found the chemical mixture. It says there are no scientific studies available that address the possible effects that this compound could have on humans. So they testify that they wouldn't know how much it would take to immobilize her or anything like that, because or if the sedation would be instantaneously or if it would take several minutes, because no one's ever tested it on humans. So they don't know how exactly it went down. But it says, and this is where the mic drop comes in. Records were obtained for BAM prescriptions related to Barry Morphew. Records were also obtained for BAM prescriptions for all persons within the counties and adjacent counties. So this is a chemical that's used for tranquilizing animals, okay? Those records showed that Barry Morphew obtained and filled several prescriptions while living in Indiana. Barry Morphew's last purchase by prescription was in March of 2018. He obtained multiple kits that each contained multiple doses of just a few months before they moved to Colorado. Records further showed that no other, and this is where the mic drop comes in, no other private citizens or private businesses in any of the surrounding counties had purchased BAM from 2017 to 2020. Colorado Parks and Wildlife and the National Park Service were the only entities that received prescriptions of BAM in that time period. Investigators learned that each of these government entities enforced very tight regulations to monitor the BAM prescriptions and the storage and use. None of the BAM from those agencies was unaccounted for. And here's the mic drop. I keep saying, here's the mic drop, but here's the actual mic drop. Excuse me. Ultimately, the prescription records show that when Suzanne Morphew disappeared, only one private citizen living in that entire area of the state had access to BAM: Barry Morphew. So let's go back to the chat and see how y'all feel. Yeah, I'll link it down to the bottom. But it's just like a cool, not a cool, because none of this is cool, but it's just like a interesting story to read through, because you get to see like how the detective, and this isn't even like what is it called? The very first one that's called, when they first arrest them, it's like a PCA. I think that's what it's called, where it's even more detailed. But this was just the grand jury indictment for his second arrest. So it didn't have as much detail as the first one, but it was still pretty interesting to read because you get to look into the telematics and all that stuff. Love when their own words get them. Hey, Khaleesi, thanks for joining us. We're about halfway through the case, but you can be part of replay crew. It says, Gabriel Fernandez, I bawled my eyes out. Yes. Oh my gosh, Gabriel Fernandez. Oh yes, Amy, we are going to be covering James Craig on Thursday. So it's we are in the middle of trial right now. I was actually going to cover it tonight, but I decided to cover it at the end of the week because we're in week 2 of the trial. Opening statements were last week, so I figured I would just deep dive into opening statements and the whole case on Thursday. Now that we've had 2 weeks in, and we could go over the case fairly well. So that's going on this week, and I am going to be covering that. DFJ, oh my god, that's nuts. I know it got really, really nuts towards the end. Yeah, the BAM. Probable cause affidavit. Thank you guys all for the verbiage. I love the chat and how you guys back me up. Yeah, it's so crazy. Amy Shepard says yes. Yeah, we call that case the smoothie killer because that's another pretty crazy case, and one that I followed as well. So most of the cases I'm covering were ones that I was already following before I got into the celebrity legal stuff. Khaleesi replay crew, yep. Okay, so let's finish out here. Let me share this tab. So this is where it says how the prosecutors this is him leaving. Remember when I said Judge Grant's motion to dismiss charges in Suzanne Morphew's case? Um, so it had already seen numerous and sometimes odd twists and turns over the past 3 years, including judicial sanctions, and a judge finally agreed to dismiss all charges against Barry Morphew without prejudice just 9 days before he was due for trial. And if you guys want to look into DA Linda Stanley, that's a whole rabbit hole into itself because there was so much going on with her, and then contacting like the court clerk, and there's all kinds of stuff. Like if you guys watched the Alex Murdaugh trial, there was, like how messy it got with, the DA and the courts and all that stuff. This was kind of similar to that. And it's been a while, so I don't want to like speak out of turn exactly what it was, but I do remember that there was a lot of hiccups with her, and she no longer works for the district attorney's office. And so I just pulled up this slide because I wanted to show what his attorney, Iris Ayton, I think, I don't know how to say her last name, but I'm not sure if he's going to have the same attorney, but she says, I want to say that Mr. Morphew not only was presumed innocent and still is presumed innocent, he is innocent. In response to the state pointing to the need to find Suzanne's body, she said, forever they have stated that they don't need a body and that a body is irrelevant, but you need to know that in this case, there has not been a single ounce of physical evidence that has been found connecting Mr. Morphew to this alleged crime. Mind you, at the time they had the trash runs, they had a lot of stuff. Circumstantial, but we're almost done with the case, and then you guys can tell me if you think that they have a solid case or if he was just chipmunk hunting. Over the past several months, they pressed the judge to issue several sanctions. Yeah, we read all that. Okay. So yeah, basically I think I just pulled this one up to show what his defense was, because all the rest of the stuff we kind of read. And then here's the slide that says her body may have been moved twice after being unalived, forensic scientists say. So basically her clothes was found in one part of the grave, and then her bones were found scattered because of the animals. But basically what they found was that there was no way that she was wearing the clothes when like her body was there, because you know how like they can examine exactly like remnants of the bones or whatever, and the clothes wasn't dragged or anything, it was just still in the grave. So the clothes in her were separated, and my theory is that maybe she was buried somewhere closer to the house in the snow where the prosecutors thought she may have been. It was like a place that was like really, really hard to get. But so this forensic scientist says that they were relocated twice. Let me see if it says, according to the indictment, her body lacked evidence of decomposition. There was very small amounts of dried soft tissue that was found on the bones. All these features would have been expected if this had been the original grave site where her decomposition occurred. The forensic anthropologist opined that based on these factors, it was unlikely that Suzanne decomposed from a fresh body to a skeleton in that location. So she was somewhere else. There's certainly every indication that decomposition occurred in a place other than where her body was found. But you can't know that for sure because that assumes that we make an assumption that the body was unalived in one location, transported to a second location where the decomposition occurred, and then brought to the third location where the body was discovered. And we can't really know that for sure. So this is all just kind of theories, but I wonder if that will help him as an alibi if it was moved around, because you have the DNA in the car that was from the guy who was from Arizona, which is really weird because he ends up in Arizona, Barry Morphew. So, um, it's interesting. It says Suzanne Morphew's bones were found significantly bleached, according to the indictment. He says that the term bleached in this context refers to how much sun exposure the bones had. In this case, the significantly bleached bones help support the prosecutor's argument that Suzanne Morphew's body was moved. So if some bones are bleached and some aren't, you can get a sense of how the remains are positioned. So her remains were found in a place that was not exposed to the sun. Therefore, they couldn't be bleached at the site where they were recovered. So there was no exposure to sun, yet the bones showed exposure to sun. So they had been somewhere else. So let's just check back in. Yeah, the decomposition in the clothes versus out of the clothes. Yes. Thank you, Khaleesi. I appreciate you coming to support. Not much meat on chipmunks. I mean, like, why he was saying that he was chasing them around because they were a nuisance. And if you guys watch the interviews, and maybe if I can pull them up on the end of another show, or when we revisit, because the trial's coming up in September, if I can pull those up, it's definitely must watch, because when he's in real time trying to tell the chipmunk story, it's pretty insane. I don't want to say funny, because none of this is funny or entertaining or anything, but it's just pretty crazy when you watch like somebody try to lie like that. I don't know. It just, and this is all allegedly. Was her DNA found at any other locations? No, Khaleesi, not that we know of. Obviously her DNA was in the house. The house was the scene of, the crime, basically. That's where she was last seen. So obviously, she was in the pool lounge or whatever, but that towel, I believe, was never found. The towel that's in that picture that we showed earlier, you weren't here, but let me see if I can pull it up again real quick. Yeah, this towel right here was never found. So yeah, her DNA was all over the place other than that. So then we get to we're kind of wrapping up here. This is where he this is his when he got brought into Colorado, and people were really upset because he was just smiling, this big old smiles to everybody, like he wasn't going to court for the unaliving of his wife. He was all smiles. And we didn't see his daughters in this one, so I don't know if it was just because they weren't available or anything, but we didn't see his daughters, so I'm wondering if they still support him. And it says that was when he entered the hearing for last week. And the latest, which was a couple days ago, July 18th, the witness list has dropped. So on the witness list is his mom, Shirley, and this is her ex, Shirley Ann Morphew. That's his mother. She's on the witness list. And then we have his daughters, Macy and Mallory. That's them when he got out the first time. And then Suzanne Morphew's affair partner, Jeff Liebler. So, and then Shoshana Dark, who was Barry Morphew's girlfriend right after the unaliving, like immediately after. It was a couple of weeks, I think. And so she's going to be called to testify. And for those who live in Colorado, I think Amy said she lived in Colorado, who followed the Chris Watts case. Do you guys remember the CBI agents, Tammy Lee and Kevin Kovac? Well, they are also coming to testify in this case for the Barry Morphew. So they were involved in the CBI investigation of Barry Morphew. So that's the witness list. And then we have what's up next, you guys. It says court hearing highlights. The judge in this case is going to be Amanda Hopkins, who's a female judge. She issued a strict media order to control pre-trial publicity. So already, we're going to have kind of what we see in a lot of these high-profile cases where they want to control, the media stuff. But I believe in Colorado, maybe somebody can check in the chat, but I believe they do allow cameras in the courtroom in Colorado. So we might be able to see the trial through like court TV and stuff like that. Prosecutors stated that they are prepared for trial and will provide grand jury documents and a witness list within 3 weeks, which they just did. We saw the grand jury indictment and the witness list. I'll post the link to the witness list. I was going to go over it, but it's a bunch of names and, a lot of them you probably won't know unless you've been following the case. But for those like super web sleuths that want to like just look at all the court docs, like I like to read all the court docs. I'll link it in the description after this. Defense attorneys did not contest his $3 million cash only bail, but reserved the right to do so at a future hearing. Next court date, we're looking at September 2nd. So it'll be a while before we hear anything else from this case, and then it'll be the first status hearing. For now, he remains in custody at the Alamosa County Jail for the unaliving of his wife, and that's what he's, it's innocent until proven guilty. But I want to just check in with the chat now that we've wrapped it up and see whether or not we think, what we think as far as Mr. Morphew. Was he just slaying chipmunks? What are our theories here? He deserves capital punishment. He probably feels smug since he got off before. I don't know about this case much, so this is just an outside theory. Yeah, exactly. He had gotten off before, but I feel like the BAM is a smoking gun, y'all. Like, I honestly feel if he was the, oh, look at Ketchup Court. Thanks for the support. I appreciate it. He's had me on his channel a couple times. If you guys don't follow Ketchup Court, he's got a YouTube channel. Give him a follow. He's always been really good to me, as a small creator. And I was on a bunch of Diddy streams with him when we were covering the Diddy case. So appreciate it. Yeah, we're wrapping up here. Ketchup, you're gonna have to do part of replay crew, but it is an interesting case that deserves a second look, because according to him, he was just out shooting chipmunks, and it looks like the prosecution thinks he was chasing his wife around the house after he had tranquilized her. It's always women who are at risk. Yes. How many stories do you hear something like this happening to a man by a woman? Not very many. Not very many. There's been the occasional story. We have Corey Richens, who I'm going to be covering, who is also known as the book author murderer. No, I don't know what she's called, but she wrote a book after allegedly. And I don't have my little ticker at the bottom. Allegedly. Corey Richens is accused of allegedly unaliving her husband and then writing a book called like When My Daddy Goes to Heaven or something crazy like that. And she unalived him because of a debt that she owed, which basically she was kind of like funneling money from him. And then she got just way too deep. She was taking out loan after loan. And we'll be covering that case as well. Lots of twists and turns with that one. It says, I'm looking at the chat. Sorry, guys. Oh, can't wait for Corey, we should collab for that one for sure. Yes, for sure. Yeah, that one is so crazy because she was in jail and she wrote a note to her brother. Like, this is what you should say about how like you and my husband would go to Mexico to get fentanyl and drugs. And then when they caught her, somehow, like, I don't know if they got tipped off or whatever, but the wardens of the jail went in and they caught her with the paperwork. Then she was like, oh, I was just writing a story. It was just fake. Kalisa says, hella guilty. Guilty. We have guilty. Guilty. Well, he's innocent until proven guilty, but so far the case in the court of random opinion seems like everybody's saying guilty. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt with the DNA in the car. It's going to be interesting because I always like to go in with, innocent. That DNA is going to be compelling, as well as the fact that the body was moved, which could have been anybody. And it'll be interesting if they can look at the dates of when they think the body was put there and whether he was in Arizona at the time or not. It'll definitely be interesting, but I honestly think that the smoking gun for the prosecution is going to be the BAM, because they actually went through the whole United States as well. Um, and it's the only person that had access to it. So not only did they do the United States, they did all of Colorado, they did all of his county, and then he was the only one that had access um, to it. So it's not like he can say, it wasn't me. I don't know. I feel like that's going to be the smoking gun. Let me pull up this graphic before we end the stream of the cases that I'm going to be covering. Hold on. This week, so you guys can stop by. It's going to be 8 Eastern. Catch up court if you want to stop by for any court cases. It's going to be 8 Eastern every night, Monday through Thursday, and then we might have special episodes on Sundays. Let's see. Yeah, she did. She claimed attorney privilege because there was like a piece of paper on top. This is about Corey Richins. There was a piece of paper on top that was like for her attorney, but then this letter was at the bottom. But I believe that they said that no, that they were going to be able to include it. Innocent until proven guilty, but he seems guilty. Yes, exactly. Yes, until proven guilty, find that DNA. The BAM, Amy. Yes, it was the BAM. She's talking about Corey Richins. How are you going to write that and send it through the jail? They read them and listen to the calls. Wow. And yes, thank you for saying listen to the calls, because let's get into tomorrow's case, guys. Donna Adelson, Mommy Dearest. This is a case of a woman named Wendy Adelson and her husband. Wendy has not been charged yet, but this case has been going for a while. This man was unalived in his driveway, shot at gunpoint. They did pick up the 2 hitmen that did it, as well as the hitman's girlfriend. So all 3 of them are in jail. And then Wendy's brother, who hired the hitman, who allegedly dated one of the hitman's girlfriend. So they, like, I don't know if they were having an affair or what, but yeah. So they caught the brother, Wendy's brother, and they arrested him. So while he was in jail, the mom, Donna, Wendy's mom, Wendy and the brothers, Charlie Adelson is the brother. So Wendy and Charlie's mom, Charlie's in jail. Wendy is still, they can't connect her to it, right? Wendy, when she testified in the trial, basically said that she was just joking around with her brother, like, oh yeah, da da da, like she had nothing to do with it and that he acted alone. But come to find out that what she's saying, like they record calls. Yeah, everything discussed here is theories, thank you, and opinions. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty. Yes, yes, yes. You know what? I'm actually going to make a little banner from that. Christina messaged me that on this exact wording on X, so I can make a banner from it, and then it could just be on the ticker at the bottom. Thank you, Christina. What was I going to say again? So Donna Adelson, she was basically calling from the jail and like talking to Charlie, telling him like, I haven't looked into the case. I don't know exact the words, so I don't want to like talk out of turn, but she basically implicated herself in these calls. And next thing you know, her and her husband are about to like take this plane. I want to say Japan, but again, tomorrow we're going to deep dive into the case because I haven't like looked at it recently. But she basically is about to get on a plane somewhere overseas, and then yeah, they pick her up and arrest her. And she was like, "No, I'm not going anywhere." It's so crazy. But yeah, so now she is on trial in the next couple weeks, I believe, for also assisting in this. And I believe that it's only a matter of time before it gets to Wendy or connected to Wendy. We'll see, because it seems like they're taking one person out at a time. Because before Charlie was arrested, they only had the 2 hitmen. And then after their trial was done, then Charlie got arrested. After Charlie's trial was done, then mom gets arrested. So is Wendy next? We're going to see. That's the Mommy Dearest case. Wednesday, we're going to reconvene with the Brian Kohberger, Idaho 4 sentencing. We also had Donald Trump speaking out about it today. So we don't know if he's going to intervene some way so that Brian Kohberger gives a full confession at his sentencing. So we're gonna do a deep dive. Brian Enton just started a new YouTube channel. If you guys don't follow him, he's a News Nation reporter. We're going to feature his YouTube channel. He's brand new to YouTube. Go support him. We'll feature his channel, an interview with Olivia for the sentencing statements. By this time, because it'll be at night, we'll know all the sentencing victim impact statements. So that'll be Wednesday night. So join us for that. And then Thursday, where's Amy? Is Amy still here? She might have left. Thursday, we're doing James Craig, who's the smoothie killer. And so this is a man who was slowly poisoning his wife's smoothies, and she felt sick. And then he kept trying to tell her, like, oh, these smoothies will make you feel better. And he was putting, DFG is going to be joining Wednesday because she's our expert Brian Koberger person. So, yes, you just start my disclaimer. Yes, thank you so much for that. Oh, Amy's here. Amy, so we're going to do the smoothie killer. She said, see, it's always the men. We have another woman, Shayna Gardner. We're going to be doing her case next week. So there's a couple of replay crew it because it's dinner time. Yeah, I went a little bit over. I'm usually only an hour. And I know that Lauren is going on. So I'm going to send you guys over to Lauren's if she's already on. I don't know how to do it. Christina, you might have to teach me how to do it to where, you know how Lauren sends people over to the chat with the link and stuff? I don't know how that works. But I'm going to start doing that in my morning shows to send people over to Ashley because she goes on after me. And I know Lauren's going to be on tonight with her friend Bruce. I believe it's Bruce from Oregon, whose channel I just discovered today. So yeah, it's going to be, should be a good show because she's going to be discussing all the Blake Lively stuff. Thank you, Victoria. Yeah, the women do it too. It's crazy. So, yeah, I think that we're gonna, Bruce from, I just discovered his channel. It's really compelling. So this is what we'll be covering. Yeah, thank you, Christina. She said we'll figure out how to send people over there. But you guys know Lauren, Court of Random Opinion on YouTube. Go check out her night stream. I'm going to go ahead and sign off. If you guys can help me out with the algo. Oh, you know Bruce to catch up? Yeah, he's really awesome. I'm like, I've seen him in the chat a bunch of times, but I didn't know he had his own channel. Look at all the Bruce love. Look at all the Bruce love in the chat. I love it. Yeah, if you guys could do me a favor and when you log out of here, leave a comment and hit that like. It'll really help the algorithm, and I'm really trying to get this crime channel going. I have a lot of traction with the Blake stuff and the celebrity chatter, but I really want to get the crime chatter going in the YouTube algorithm, so that'll help me a bunch. So I appreciate it. Bruce the Moose. Everyone's like, I just found his channel. Thank you, Just Snooping. Thank y'all so much for the support. It was so fun hanging out with y'all tonight. Obviously this isn't fun to talk about, but I like to get it out there because, it helps us get into the minds of these people and, possibly maybe prevent, your son or daughter or whatever, getting into these crazy relationships, or you can see the signs, or, there's a million ways why we're into the true crime stuff. But this will be an interesting case to follow. I'll keep you guys updated. Until next time. See y'all on the next one tomorrow night, 8 Eastern, or you can tune in the morning for Celebrity Court Chatter at 8 a.m. Eastern. See y'all later.